We're going to talk some international baseball with John Miedreich of Baseball United. Diamond Diehards is on. Joe Rizzo here, bringing you baseball, and it's just John Miedreich and I today. The dog's taking this one off, so we'd like you to jump in, and we're going to add right to our usual stuff at the beginning that you like to hear. Go check out baseballunited.com first and foremost. And while you're doing that, if you've reached this podcast, you probably know how to get to us, but you can go to diamonddiehards.com or your usual podcast places like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or our Facebook group. And if you haven't followed us yet or subscribed, then we want you to do that. First part of the segment will be brought to you by the Mascolo Group. If you're in the market in North Jersey and in the Pascack Valley, the Northern Valley, or any of those spots in Northern New Jersey, go check out the Mascolo Group. You go to GaryMascolo.com or call 201-615-3665. As we do with all of our supporters and advertisers. For more information, you could check out the description in this podcast. All right, John, welcome to the show. Thanks for jumping on with Diamond Diehards. We're doing this on the Friday, the off day between games 5 and 6 of the World Series. So what better time to talk about Baseball United? It's an exciting time in baseball here in the States, but you guys are doing something really cool, and you're trying to bring it to some areas of the world that really we haven't seen too much baseball in before. So tell us a little bit about that leading off.
Well, Joe, first of all, thanks for having me. It's an honor and privilege to be here. Yeah, so Baseball United, we're a group that's excited to inspire 2 billion new fans on the other side of the globe, inspire them to fall in love with the game of baseball, like so many of us here have. There's an unbelievably awesome opportunity to do that and to really export the great game of baseball, export, Americana and goodwill through this. So we're really excited about that, and, full steam ahead.
Okay, so we're talking like a big pool, but that just because you have a big pool doesn't always necessarily mean you have like a good viral market. And we've seen a lot of different ventures over the years that where there's good intention behind it, but there's not necessarily the upfront planning. You guys come off with a good start with your partners, because when people see Barry Larkin and Mariano Rivera involved with your venture, those are 2 Major League Baseball Hall of Famers. Both guys played 19 years in the bigs. They both played with one team, Larkin with the Reds, Rivera with the Yankees. Rivera is the only unanimous selection into the Hall of Fame, or at least the first. And that really adds to the brand. It certainly helps people here in the States understand that you guys are serious, and that these guys aren't just like faces in what you're doing, because they've both worked well internationally, and we could talk about that more later. But internationally, like you go into the Dubai markets, you're going for South Asia, like India, Pakistan, those names are not going to necessarily resonate over there on day one. But I guess so. What is it? Is it that you try to build a little bit of the base here, and then people here help with the understanding, with their friends over, across the Atlantic? Like, how does that work from a business perspective for you guys?
Well, Joe, let me just first start by saying, yeah, you're 100% right. When you have the likes of, Mariano and Barry working on our team, it's just, gives us a ton of credibility. But it's also unbelievable when you look at those 2 individuals and their name, both on and off the field. Obviously, they're synonymous with greatness. And when you get past that and you speak to them as people with their passion, their motivation, their experiences, they're just 2 guys who were a no-brainer to bring aboard on this project. And we also have our CEO Cash Shake, who was another visionary, extremely motivated guy. So we really have what we call the dream team, because the reality is, as you said before, there's many ventures, but it's about the ability to first, the vision is one thing, but then how do you now put that in an executable plan? And really, a lot of that comes back to the granular understanding of the society and the communities that we're going to be, going into. So believe it or not, we've done some really, really intense research on, the new demographic that we're trying to focus on. When you look at this region of the world, if you look at South Asia, whether it's the Indian subcontinent, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, or the greater GCC area, the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Doha, Qatar, Saudi Arabia. When you look at these markets, these are all emerging markets that have now really, really focused their investment of time, money, resources into sport. And there's no better sport, we believe, that can, unite the world as baseball can do it, because baseball is a game that we believe, as you're well aware of. I mean, baseball, the strategy, the team building, working in a team atmosphere, overcoming adversity, learning how to fail 70% of the time, but being able to push on and really do something special. So these are all things that we know that baseball brings, and we in America, were brought up with this. What we would like to do is export that same really passion to this part of the world. And you'd be surprised when I talk later about some of the data that we hear out of these places. If you look at just the demographics, currently today, the average age of a Major League Baseball fan is 57 years old. It's the oldest of the four major sports. When you look across the globe, and you're looking at the regions we're talking about that we're launching, it's obviously another bat and ball crazed society of cricket, which is the largest bat and ball, following in the world. About 1 billion followers of that sport on that side of the world. The average age of a cricket fan is 34 years old. So our job, and really what will make this a sustainable and viable really venture, is the ability to target this particular culture, and also the age demographics of a younger audience.
I love data. And I love, I have friends in the part of the world, more so India, from just with my day job, I got my teams were always in India. So there's a good chance that this podcast will be getting over there. So you have a chance directly to speak to some people in India who definitely understand cricket and might even have a little bit of an understanding or an awareness of baseball. So I'm just throwing it out that to you.
Sounds great.
But the thing that resonated with me, John, that you just said, was understanding culturally where you might have a fit. That's where the failures to me so much happen. Like where you just like even when you're trying to take like football and fit it into another American model where you want to have a rival league, and they say, okay, we're going to have our season start in March, and like nobody wants football in March. Like people love football in the United States, but they just don't want it in March. Like they're kind of done with it. They're kind of footballed out. You do have that small percentage who are just junkies that can't really get enough of it, but they don't really want it. You're trying to give something to people that they don't know whether they want it or not, right? Because they haven't really been mostly exposed to it. And it sounds like you have a good plan and you have the data behind it, and you're thinking about execution, before day one even starts. The other thing that I noticed is just here the past few days, and we're talking now. It's Friday, November 4th. Like we said, it's the midday between games 5 and game 6 of the World Series, but you could be catching this at any time. You could be listening a year from now when we've had your first season completed. But the thing, timeliness of this as well, You just had a name change, and I guess it was, some level of ownership change, and it's happening like you're getting a little bit here in the spotlight during the World Series here, where everybody in North America is paying attention to it, but like just ahead of the World Cup, right? In soccer, where you have sort of this, I would say, from the North American type fan, an embracing of what's going on in that side of the world, right? Because that's where the World Cup is going to be taking place. So I feel like, maybe timing was serendipitous, or maybe it was planned a little bit. And by the way, I love the new name better. Baseball United, way easier on the tongue. So all right, I kind of threw a couple out there. I don't know if it's a question, John. I think we're just more having a discussion about it, because I'm just interested here in where we go as you and I just Diamond Diehards is really about just talking. It's not like one person sitting here peppering you with questions. It's like, a couple of people sitting down on the couch having a chat, like, hey, what are you guys doing? It's kind of interesting. These are the interesting points to me. So I'll throw it back to you, and maybe you could speak about, timing, name change, ownership, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'll start with your first comment, Joe, when you were talking about, how important the granular knowledge and understanding of culture and appreciation of culture is so important in doing any of these types of things. And, that's one of the unique skill sets and really values of the team that we built. I mean, myself personally, I spent 2.5 years living in that part of the world, in the Middle East, traveling in and out of Dubai and Abu Dhabi. I didn't live in the United Arab Emirates, but very close by for 2.5 years. In my past career, I really worked on a government to government type liaison atmosphere. I was in an executive role for the better part of a decade and a half, dealing with these areas and these governments and the people. So I have a very, very good understanding. Our CEO as well, Cash Sheikh, had spent many years in the private sector dealing with this area of the world, and really understanding and really having a granular knowledge of the way things operate. If you look at Barry and Mariano as well, I mean, they've been involved in international baseball ventures for a very long time. I mean, Barry was one of the people who brought baseball down to Brazil. He's the World Baseball Classic manager for the Brazilian team. Also was involved in some way or another with the $1 Million Arm Project out of India. Barry was. And then when you talk about Mariano obviously grew up playing soccer in Panama. We obviously know what he did with his career, but when you look back at that, understanding, and then since then, he's done a tremendous amount to develop kids in his native Panama and some of the other surrounding countries. So really the international, baseball is one piece of it, but that really granular knowledge and international experience and appreciation is the other, one of the other keys that we bring to the table. Baseball United is really a vision, and it's bigger than a professional baseball league, quite frankly. And that's why we fell in love with the name of Baseball United. Baseball United, the way I see it, is a movement, right? It's a platform in which obviously the crown jewel of that platform is this professional league that we're going to be, launching in November of 2023 on the ground in Dubai. That's the crown jewel. But there's other segments of what we're doing, partnering with different baseball federations, some of the overlooked federations throughout the world. When you look at baseball, there's about 200 countries that have baseball federations and play baseball internationally. Once you get past like maybe the top 10 or 15, it's a big drop off, right? So we obviously know the United States, Dominican Republic, Venezuela, Japan, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Once you get past those countries, there's a significant fallout. It drops off a cliff, if you will. And then when that happens, the resources that are put into baseball on the ground in these places isn't what we're used to. So the player development, the ability for mass participation of children just isn't at what we are used to as real baseball fans here in the United States. So Baseball United, we're committed to partnering with these federations from around the world and really doing what we can do to help them build baseball, in their geographical area responsibility with our support, trying to build that fan base, create this ability or create an environment, let's say, where there's just mass participation. Boys, girls at all ages can engage in the game, can enjoy the game. And it's bigger than just the game of baseball. Look, Joe, you obviously have a very, passionate and successful podcast. I'm sure you played growing up, but that didn't mean you put on the pinstripes and played professionally with the Yankees. However, because of your love of the game, you were still able to stay involved in some way or another in what you're doing today. So another, key differentiator for Baseball United is obviously we're going out there and getting kids and inspiring kids to play the game that we all love, with the hopes of when they playing at the highest level. But that may not always be the case for everyone. However, through the game of baseball, there's life lessons that can be taught. There's people who love the game of baseball, who are great at math, who may have, an opportunity to be a statistician in our league, or somebody who may, want to study medicine and could become, a trainer or whatnot in our league, or sports psychologist. So what we've done in Baseball United is through our academy, platform is, bring this game of baseball, teach baseball, the athleticism, the skill of baseball, while at the same time as the character building pieces, and, give people an opportunity to have a career within baseball, because it's not just about the players.
Okay, we're going to take a sec to recognize fmsgraphics.com for all your printing and promotional needs. Maybe even Baseball United might have a use for printing and promotional needs, and they could check out fmsgraphics.com. Well, I shouldn't overstep my boundaries there. But a family-run, family-owned business for the last 50 plus years, fmsgraphics.com for all your printing and promotional needs. That's this segment here brought to you by fmsgraphics.com. Yeah, very interesting. That's a part that we don't talk about very much, right? Like the structure around any business, right, that you bring to a certain area. It's not like in baseball, it's not just the players, right? It's managers, it's administrators, it's trainers, it's statisticians, it's IT people, right? It's broadcasters. It could be really just a myriad of things. So that's why you're using this, I guess you're calling it the academy model. And let's jump a little bit ahead, what the plan is right now. I mean, I think from what I've seen, it's supposed to be 4 teams that you're going to play in a season for 2023. So how does that vision become reality, John?
So let me just, Joe, walk you through a little bit about how we're doing it in our execution plan. So November, so let's go to fall, just after the World Series is played here in the United States, probably sometime around the time of November. We're going to be playing a short 10-game, 4 teams, 10 games. Now, I don't mean 10 games each team, but a total of a 10-game, what we're calling is our showcase, our inaugural showcase. And this inaugural showcase is a presentation of professional baseball in the region. Now, believe it or not, as we were talking about the data that we have, that we really took a lot of time and effort to really dig up and really, it's promising because, what we know today is nearly 1 million people in the greater Dubai area. I'm just talking about within an hour's drive are baseball fans because it's such an expatriate community, right? Dubai, obviously, it's one of the most ethnically diverse places in all the world. So we know there's a fan base there today of, around 1 million people. And that's just in that United Arab Emirates and let's say the greater Dubai area. We know that to give them this presentation of professional baseball is going to be inspiring, motivating, and build a lot of excitement. Soon after that, we're going to be having our first season, which is going to be the early winter of 2024. So, January, February time. We're going to be playing also in Dubai, maybe in one other city. We'll ramp it up to 6 teams playing a 40-game season. And again, not 6 teams, 40 games, 6 teams playing collectively 40 games. And then later that year, in the fall of 2024, pretty much 1 year after the showcase, it will be ramping up to 8 teams with a total of approximately 60 games being played. And we're looking at 3 different cities, if you will, whether that would be, I'm just putting these in as placeholders today, but, the idea is, do we go to Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and let's say Mumbai, or it could be Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And we play in those 3 venues. So, we're really excited about what we're doing. What I can say is, so my role, or one of my responsibilities, is to build the teams and to build the baseball infrastructure, everything that would be needed from, procurement of equipment to developing a professional level playing surface to actually putting the product of baseball players on the field. And Joe, what I can say is, we have a comprehensive database of, hundreds of players that qualify and really are in our database to select from to put in our showcases in our seasons. And from a player a player level perspective or a gameplay level perspective, we believe that we're one of the top 5 formidable leagues in the world. From a player perspective, we have, one of the other things that's quite important to us is the internationalizing our rosters. We have players currently today in that database on our rosters representing 34 different countries globally. And, it's like, finding that needle in the haystack, going out and finding a kid who's throwing 93 miles an hour in Finland and signing him. It's about finding a catcher who's, a 1.9 second pop time out of Sweden and signing him, as well as many of our players who have, the better part of 8, 9, 10 years major league service time, who will be playing with us as well in Dubai and some of the other cities. So it's all coming together, and we're really excited about the product that we're going to be able to put on the field.
So does this become for those players, like if they have, major or minor league service that they're still going after, all this takes place kind of, the same as if you were in a Dominican Winter League or something like that. Like it wouldn't preclude them from still playing in North America if they, had the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great that you mentioned the Dominican Winter League. I actually, have a great, history and experience there. I've owned an academy in the Dominican Republic for over 10 years with one of the other team members that we have on the Baseball United front. And, we have a very good understanding of the way the Caribbean baseball atmosphere works, the business of it, and then how it complements, let's say, what's going on here in the United States. Obviously, we know we are all huge, us in Baseball United, we're all huge Major League Baseball fans. I mean, that's obviously the crown jewel of the baseball world. What we are trying to do is, we're not in a place, or it's not our intention or motivation to compete, because that's not what this is about. It's about growing the game of baseball and bringing baseball to 2 billion fans on the other side of the world, and giving some kids here from the States and from the rest of the world an opportunity to really, compete on a professional level in another iconic city globally, such as Dubai. So yes, very, very similar to what you're talking about. There's actually, if you just look at the climate, it's actually a benefit for us to play during the off season of the Major League Baseball season as well. I mean, to be playing over the dog days of summer in Dubai at 125 degrees, I don't think any player would want to do. We're in, by the grace of God, if you look at the climate, Dubai around the times we're going to be playing, in that region around the time where we're going to be playing, is optimal for playing baseball. So number one, from a business perspective of coordinating with some of the other leagues that we have great relationships with, and we're in a collaborative relationship with. At the same time, the climate helps us as well. So we're just in a very good place right now with the time frame.
So when the rosters come out, there's would somebody like me be familiar with a few names that might be on there?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for sure. There's no doubt about that. And I know that our marketing plan will be over the next, couple of weeks and months to start releasing information about, managers and coaches who obviously you and your listeners are going to be very familiar with a lot of those guys as well as some of the guys who are going to be suiting it up and actually, stepping in the batter's box or toeing the rubber. So, good stuff from that regard. So yes, you guys definitely will be, knowing who a lot of these individuals are.
You got a little nugget for us? You got one that you could throw out, where you might get in trouble with your partners if you say
you know what I was we got Barry and Mariano, if you didn't know.
Wait, are you saying that they might play?
Well, listen, Barry, when you get to meet Barry and Mariano, these guys are jacks of all trades. We joke oftentimes, we say, Barry, look, our company and our group, it's important that everyone can do everything, if you will. Nothing is below anyone, right? So although I may be the executive vice president of baseball operations, tomorrow, if you needed me to step into a role of, general manager or trip advisor, then that's what I do. We often joke with Barry and say, Barry, we may need you to lace them up and jump back at shortstop, which he always gets a kick out of.
Well, the funny thing is, Barry could probably pitch and Mariano could probably play shortstop. If you've ever seen, if you were familiar with those guys' careers, like it wouldn't have been that much of a crazy thing to think that either guy could have been practically a Hall of Famer playing the other position, like it's
very, very well said. Very well said. And that's a fact. I mean, these guys are just athletes. And that's another, big fun and just to kind of elaborate on that a little bit more, because I love that point. That just speaks to also what we're doing here in Baseball United. Like, our experience and my experience in the development process of, youth players and that of Barry's and Mariano's and some of the other individuals who we're working with. The reality is, we believe that the way to create, the best baseball players is to build an athlete first and integrate baseball skills as that happens. So the better athlete a person is, or the better, or the broader his athletic capacity is, then the skills that get in the baseball specific skills that are integrated in are that much more, effective and efficient. So, to your point, absolutely either one of those guys and may, quite frankly, could have done it at any position and maybe possibly in other sports, to be quite honest with you. I mean, if you look at Barry's family, he comes from a long list of athletes so who play multi-sport. So, it's funny you said that, because one of the other principles that we have in our player development piece is build the athlete first. As you do that, you integrate those baseball skills in. And that's how we believe we're building baseball athletes, not baseball players.
And especially as you get up and, my age, right around Barry Larkin and Mariano Rivera, sometimes you get a little muscle soreness or something, doesn't work the way you want. Gatto Acupuncture Wellness in Glen Rock, New Jersey. If you're in the Bergen County area, go see Dr. Melissa. She's helped me out. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be able to move this thing. Forget it, above my shoulder. Now I could, if I had to throw left-handed, I probably could even do that. Book online at gattoacu.com or call 551-212-3845. Gattoacu.com. Go check out Dr. Melissa for your health and wellness. And again, if you want more information about any of our sponsors, you could always just check in the descriptions here on the podcast, wherever you're checking it out on any of our formats. John, let's get a little bit into your background in particular. This is kind of like really my wheelhouse. Like I like just, I could find you don't have to be Barry Larkin or Mariano Rivera for me to find you interesting, but boy, you have personally, if Johnny Cash was here, he'd be saying you've been everywhere, man. So tell us a little bit about your background. And, it involves, of course, law enforcement. I was wondering if I should call you Lieutenant John. You said, no, I feel privileged. But yeah, tell us a little bit about you, how you got here, but, start from early on.
Absolutely. So Joe, I'm born and raised in New York, Long Island, New York, just over the border of Queens County, the city. Growing up was a decent student, wasn't setting the world on fire by any means. By about high school, I realized all I ever wanted to do was be a New York City cop. And at 22 years old, went on the job and really, I remember the first day being there and getting sworn in. We were told that day that you just earned a front seat ticket to the greatest show on earth. And as a 22-year-old kid, I really didn't understand how true that statement would wind up being for me. So just to give you an idea of the time frame, this is July of 2001. Soon after that, as you, I'm sure if you just put the dates together, 9/11 happens. And, although I wasn't necessarily in that general area, as when that took place, within a few hours, I had responded, down to the general lower Manhattan area, as did all of my other colleagues with the NYPD. And then I spent the better half of 2 months, let's say, working out of that general area, whether it was in, the landfill, going through the debris, whether it was doing site security, or actually on the pile itself. So, that day, obviously, as a 22-year-old, I understood the significance, but another day that I don't think I really understood how much that would impact. I probably understood how it would impact the world more than I understood how it would impact me personally, because I had no idea. So I leave, eventually I make my way to the streets of Brooklyn, and, I'm on the streets of Brooklyn as a patrol officer, then, worked in a violence suppression squad in a plainclothes, what you listeners probably understand as an undercover unit. But I was there for about 3 or 4 years, got promoted to a supervisory rank, worked in the investigations world. And right at about the time I had 10 years on the job, really my life changed in a way I never dreamed of. I was selected for a very prominent position within the NYPD Intelligence Bureau. And that position was that I was a liaison officer embedded with Jordanian police intelligence in Amman, Jordan. And I basically started out there in 2011. Just the timing of everything, it was just an unbelievable opportunity to be in that region of the world for that type of work. It was right at the beginning of the Arab Spring. The Syrian civil war had just popped off. And I was living in Amman, maybe 30 miles south of the Syrian border. Just a really unbelievable opportunity to be able to understand culture, understand the dynamics of the way the other side of the world lives. Just a really, really special experience. I spent about 2.5 years there. I got promoted once when I was over there again to more of a managerial role, a senior managerial role within the police department. Then when I moved back to New York, soon after my time in New York, I was actually, by the grace of God, named to a very, very prestigious position within the NYPD. And I was named the commanding officer of basically the NYPD's international operations. So if you could do some research online and just understand that the NYPD is an organization of about 53,000 people. It's a municipal organization, obviously a city police department, about 53,000 people. And it's the only police department really in the country, if not the world, that actually has, or I should say municipal police department in the country or the world, that actually has a forward-facing, let's say, offensive defense in the world of counterterrorism, transnational crime. So I ran that operation for the better part of 8 years as the commander of that unit, and really have, started, and just to bring it full circle, I started as a cop on the streets in Brooklyn. And, I've been on 6 continents on behalf of the NYPD, count dozens and dozens of country, met dozens and dozens of world leaders, really, which, from an experience perspective and an appreciation perspective, and the ability to understand how important relationships are, how important understanding and appreciating the different cultures and the way things operate at different parts in the world is really, I can't put a price to the value of that for this organization of Baseball United. And, and then in the baseball world, about, my wife's from the Dominican Republic. I speak fluent Spanish, fluent Dominican Spanish, whether you're talking more of the street slang or more of the country twang of the Dominican version. I've been traveling down to the Dominican Republic for over 20 years. 10 of those years, myself and my brother and one of our other good friends who's involved with Baseball United as well, we actually just started philanthropically by, helping out little leagues down there, supplying uniforms, giving away equipment, helping them fix up the fields, that the conditions that they had to play in. So after doing that for a short time, I really I fell in love with this whole process, and really then really got very involved with the development of players, right? I talked a little bit about my development background and some of the strategies that we have here in Baseball United. A lot of that comes from my experience on the ground in the Dominican Republic, running a baseball academy in which we're, first off, mass participation, get kids out on the field, get kids having fun on the field. Then with that, if the kids that maybe show themselves to be somebody who can play at a higher level, then maybe they're moved on to another program that we had owned in order to further develop them and then market them to one of the 30 major league organizations, which we were successful in doing. So to your point, Joe, yeah, I've been all around the world, and it's really been a blessing. And, that experience, it can't get learned out of a textbook, and really, obviously, education's a huge piece of it, but real life applicable education to live in all these different environments and understand and have boots on the ground and relationships is really one of the separating factors for us in Baseball United, to be able to, my relationships and all that experience, as well as the rest of the teams, in being able to, again, the vision, we talked about this, I think the first thing I said was the vision's one thing, but then how do you execute that vision? And through this, vast experience and really unique, I think, background puts us in a position to do that.
Wow, that was like better than I could have even expected. I mean, we could just go probably do another 12 hours on what you've seen. Maybe we'll do a 12 part 1 hour, we'll do one time we'll talk about baseball, one time we'll talk about law enforcement, whatever it takes. Wow, that's boy, I could go 12 different ways off that, John, really. But I guess the main thing is, why do you choose, baseball? I mean, you kind of answered it already, but like, why do you choose baseball instead of like, maybe running for office and trying to fix some things at level? I mean, you'd have probably a pretty good case, better than most of these candidates. I shouldn't get too political, but like, if you listen to the show, I'm not really a big fan of politicians, but you'd probably make a pretty good politician too. I would think with your experience and your understanding, but so it's just baseball's in your heart, I guess, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Joe, first of all, thanks for the kind words. No aspirations of political office. I think that, when I was presented this opportunity in this project, I mean, obviously I was involved in the game of baseball down in the Caribbean, the Dominican Republic, as well as the United States with some of the different ventures and things we were doing. But this was like kind of checked all boxes for me. When it comes to, number one, a team, right? So growing up, that team atmosphere, the the interconnectivity between members of a team. I mean, we have that chemistry here, and that's just something that, when you run an organization and there's that brotherhood, or when I was with the NYPD and had dozens and dozens of people who reported to me, as well as me up through the ranks. I mean, there's a brotherhood, there's that fraternity. I think that, as I got, involved with the group of Baseball United, it was that all over again, right? And really, it's about doing good and doing what's right, and really just trying to take the blessings and really the good fortune that we've had, some of us through the game of baseball as players, some of us through the game of baseball in other ways, which is really unique about our group, and just trying to share that with the rest of the world. And really, for me, it's about doing things the right way. It's about making history, and the business side will take care of itself as long as we focus on what we have to be focused on. So just to sum it up, I mean, there's no better project, I feel, that deserves more of my attention, quite frankly, my time, and really my commitment. So yeah, it's all about Baseball United for me and the rest of our team as well.
Okay, I'm gonna go a little less sunny here. Well, first, let me get in one quick thing about your car or your truck. If it's not clean and you need to get it clean, and you're in the Bergen or Passaic County areas in New Jersey, Big Ed's Car Wash, 17-16 Fair Lawn, River Road in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. Big Ed's Car Wash. Big Ed does everything clean and green. Just saw him the other day, and he looks good. He's doing good. So go bring your ride to Big Ed's Car Wash in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. Once again, for more information, check the description on the podcast. All right. So I don't want to, I'm usually more of a sunny guy, but there's something that struck me here too. And it's not, it's not so much the fun part of what you're doing, but I feel like you're probably more equipped to answer this question than pretty much anybody out there, John. And, with this, I don't know how much you follow golf, but in golf, they've had this recent upheaval where they made this live tour, and it's backed by, money from the Middle East. And, they just basically used a money model where they're paying a lot of players to switch over from the PGA, and that's how they're raising things there. You guys are doing things in a completely different way. Yours is a grassroots effort, and it's not meant to compete with the major leagues. So there's a big difference there. But you're talking about being able to play in Riyadh, and Saudi Arabia and things like that. I mean, do you expect at some point that there might be flack for doing that? I mean, my personal feeling on it, which I don't get into too much, is that if you're ever going to bridge these gaps, sports is a great way to do it. And it's kind of a good way to bridge, cultural differences and find common ground. And at some point, somebody's, going to be the one to go in there and kind of do it. But, do you expect that in some regions that you're going to, that you might get flack from, your American-based partners about that?
Well, great question, Joe. I mean, that's obviously something that, we've been asked about before because of the Live Golf Tour, and just to echo what you said, we are so different in this regards that, any of our investment is coming out of the United States, number one. We have no, we're not competing with the other leagues here in the States. It's really just to grow that game of baseball. So if you think about it from a fundamental perspective, it's a completely different venture and model, right? So once we can really communicate that, and we have been able to do that successfully, and I hope I could do that right now, is the ability to communicate who we are, what our mission is, and how we're going to do that. So again, American-based, investment money, one. Two, no interest in trying to compete with, the other big organizations here. Like, let's be honest, we're not looking to, create this huge fan base out of the United States. It's about growing the game in a place that's a new market. So right there, our model's completely different because we're not competing for players and things to that nature, just like the golf league you said was. However, to further dig, I guess to further explain some of the other things that you had mentioned about some of the different cities we were going. Look, I think we're in a very unique position here. And I talked a little bit about my last life, which I since retired from and moved on. Listen, I think that sports, like you said, is a special thing. And we in Baseball United believe, the reason why the word unite is in there is one of our core principles or fundamentals is to unite the world through baseball. We want to be able to cut through those cultural barriers and break the mindset of, that look, this area plays baseball, but this area doesn't, and really find commonality. We believe that we're more similar than we are different when we get down to the brass tacks of things. And the idea behind what we're doing is to really to show that and get players and inspire players from all over the world, whether it's in 6-year-old, boy or girl out of Dubai, or a 22-year-old kid, as I mentioned, out of India, Sweden, or Finland. And the ability to do that and to tell the story, I truly believe, when we do this and as we do this, that when you look at the money, and this is no disrespect to any other organization, government organization, that being said, I believe that the game of baseball, when we execute what we're doing, I truly believe that we can do more to unite the world and some of the areas of the world that we're going to be playing in specifically, which has maybe not always been on the same page with our side of the globe. We can do more uniting the world through the game of baseball and Baseball United than, quite frankly, all of the diplomacy in the world can do, because we're finding that the similarities with humanity, if you will, and really reaching and connecting to that.
I could not think of a better way to wrap it up. That's John Miedreich, baseballunited.com. Go check it out. Even if it's not going to be on your radar from this moment, just keep it in mind and keep your eyes open and your ears open. And I'm sure over the next year or so and down the line, we're going to be hearing and seeing a lot more about it. And John, I think that first day when that first kid from Dubai makes the majors, we're going to be sitting backyard in the Rizzo Cabana, having a couple of beers and celebrating it. All these things have to start somewhere, and this looks like a pretty good start. And I believe it'll be an eventuality. If you look at the history of where the baseball players have come from that have made the majors from different countries, it all started somewhere with some kind of grassroots movement. Now we have, look at how many Australian players we've had made the majors. That's not an accident. That's people like you years ago starting ventures like this. So once again, follow their progress on baseballunited.com. Look for more updates in the coming weeks and months, or whenever you're catching this. And if you're watching internationally in Dubai, the UAE, Saudi, India, Pakistan, we know a few of you in India are watching it, then maybe it's going to be you or your kids someday. So check that all out. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Diamond Diehards. And if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, we would appreciate that you do that on all formats: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Podcasts, YouTube, or if you haven't checked out the Facebook group, you should definitely go there and join that, facebook.com/groups/Diamond Diehards. So that is going to do it. John, thank you so much. I probably went way over the amount of time that was allotted, but I get a little caught up. I hope I didn't mess up the rest of the day for you.
No problem, Joe. Honor and a privilege. We really appreciate it. It was a great conversation, and we look forward, and Baseball United will make history, and we look forward to doing it and engaging the new fan base on the other side of the world.
Okay, that's John Miedreich. This is Joe Rizzo for John. Thanks for watching or listening to Diamond Diehards. Diamond Diehards is out.